Welcome back. Last time, we dug into the basics of soil, what it is, why it matters, and how it connects to our lives in more ways than we might realize. We even learned about loam, the superhero of soil types.
Right, yeah.
But let's face it, humans haven't always been the best caretakers of soil. So today we're going to get real about some of the not so great things we've done and how they're impacting soil health. Ready to get a little dirty?
Let's do it. I think it's important to acknowledge that our actions have consequences.
Yeah.
And sometimes those consequences aren't very pretty.
So where do we even begin?
Well, deforestation is a huge issue. We're cutting down forests at an alarming rate, and that's really bad news for the soil. You see, trees are like nature's guardians.
Okay.
Their roots hold soil in place. Their leaves create this protective layer on the forest floor, and they help regulate the water cycles.
So when we cut down trees, we're basically leaving soil exposed and vulnerable.
Exactly. It's like taking away its shield, leaving it defenseless against the elements. And without trees to anchor it, soil becomes much more susceptible to erosion.
Right.
Think about a heavy rainstorm hitting bare ground.
Yeah.
It just washes away the topsoil, carrying away valuable nutrients and leaving behind less fertile land. It's a recipe for disaster, especially in areas that rely heavily on agriculture.
It's heartbreaking to think about fertile farmland turning into, like, barren deserts just because we need more space or resources.
It is a sobering thought.
Yeah.
And it's not just deforestation that's impacting soil health. The way we farm can also be problematic. For centuries, traditional farming practices involved plowing, which is turning over the soil to prepare it for planting.
Yeah, plowing seems pretty basic. What's wrong with that?
Well, plowing isn't inherently bad,
Right.
In fact, it can be beneficial in some cases, but when it's done too frequently or too aggressively, it disrupts the natural structure of the soil. Imagine constantly digging up and churning the soil. It breaks up those important aggregates, those clumps, making it more susceptible to compaction.
Compaction. That sounds serious.
It is. Compacted soil is like this hard, dense brick. It's difficult for water to penetrate. It's hard for roots to grow. And it can even lead to increased runoff and erosion.
It's like suffocating the soil.
Yeah.
So what can we do to avoid compaction?
Well, there are a few things. Reducing tillage is a big one, minimizing how often and how deeply we plow the soil. And then there's no-till farming, which involves planting crops directly into the residue of the previous crop without plowing at all.
Oh,
It's a way of kind of respecting the natural structure of the soil.
This sounds pretty innovative. Are there any other farming practices that can harm soil?
Unfortunately, yes. The overuse of synthetic fertilizers and pesticides is another big concern. These chemicals can be effective in boosting crop yields in the short term,
Right.
but they can have negative long-term impacts on soil health.
How so?
Well, excessive use of fertilizers can throw off the balance of nutrients in the soil, which can lead to all sorts of problems. And pesticides, while targeting those harmful insects, can also kill off beneficial microorganisms that are essential for soil fertility. It's like wiping out an entire ecosystem with a single spray.
It's like we're trying to control nature instead of working with it.
That's a great way to put it. We need to remember that soil is a living, breathing ecosystem, and we need to treat it with respect.
So if those are the problems, are there any solutions? Is there any hope for soil?
There's always hope. The good news is that we're learning from our mistakes,
Right.
and developing more sustainable ways to farm. One approach that's gaining a lot of popularity is called regenerative agriculture.
Regenerative agriculture, what's that all about?
It's a holistic approach that focuses on working with nature rather than against it
Okay.
to improve soil health and build resilience.
So it's about seeing soil as a partner, not just a resource to be exploited?
Exactly. Regenerative agriculture involves practices like minimizing soil disturbance, keeping the soil covered with crops or mulch year-round,
Right.
diversifying crops to promote biodiversity, and integrating livestock into farming systems to naturally fertilize the soil.
Those all sound like great ideas. What kind of impact can regenerative agriculture have?
It can have a huge impact. Not only does it benefit the soil, but it also helps sequester carbon, improve water quality, and enhance biodiversity. It's a win-win-win for the environment, for farmers, and for all of us who depend on healthy soil for our food and well-being.
It sounds like a much more sustainable and holistic way to farm.
It is, and it's gaining traction all over the world.
So far, we've been focusing on the impact of farming on soil. But what about urban areas? What role do cities play in all of this?
That's a great question. We often think of cities as these concrete jungles, but even in urban environments, soil plays a crucial role.
Okay.
It's the foundation for our parks, our gardens, and even our street trees.
So even though we might not see it as much, soil is still working hard in cities.
Absolutely. But it faces its own set of challenges in urban environments. Think about all the construction, all the development, and the pollution that happens in cities. These activities can lead to soil compaction, contamination, and loss of those green spaces,
Right.
which are essential for filtering air and water, regulating temperature, and providing habitat for wildlife.
It sounds like a tough environment for soil to thrive in.
It can be. But there are also some incredible initiatives underway to promote urban soil health. Many cities are creating community gardens, planting trees along streets, and even using green roofs and walls to bring nature back into urban environments.
Those are some pretty cool ideas. What kind of impact can these initiatives have?
They can make a big difference. Not only do they beautify cities, but they also help improve air quality, reduce stormwater runoff,
Oh, wow.
and provide those valuable green spaces for people and wildlife to enjoy.
It's like bringing a little bit of nature back into the concrete jungle.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that even in the most urbanized environments, we can still connect with and care for the soil beneath our feet.
So we talked about deforestation, unsustainable farming practices, and the challenges facing soil in urban areas. It seems like soil is under attack from all sides. But you said there was hope.
There is. Remember, humans cause these problems, and that means we can be the ones to solve them.
That's a good point. We have the power to change our ways.
We do, and we're already seeing a shift in thinking,
Right.
From sustainable farming practices to urban greening initiatives, people all over the world are recognizing that healthy soil is essential for our well-being and the future of our planet.
It's inspiring to hear that people are stepping up to protect soil.
It is. But there's one more critical piece of the puzzle we need to discuss: the connection between soil and climate change.
We touched on this briefly in the last episode, but I'm eager to learn more.
Yeah.
How does soil fit into the whole climate change picture?
Soil is a key player in both mitigating and adapting to climate change. Remember how we talked about soil's amazing ability to store carbon?
Right.
Well, that makes it a powerful tool in the fight against climate change.
So healthy soil can actually help us combat climate change.
Absolutely. When we manage soil sustainably, we can draw down carbon from the atmosphere and store it in the ground,
Okay.
helping to reduce the concentration of greenhouse gases that are warming our planet.
That's incredible. It's like turning soil into a giant carbon sink.
Exactly. But on the flip side, when soil is degraded or mismanaged, it releases that stored carbon back into the atmosphere, making climate change worse.
So it's a double-edged sword.
It is. That's why it's so critical to protect those existing forests, plant new trees, and adopt those farming practices that promote soil health. By doing so, we can help soil do its job as a climate regulator and contribute to a more stable and sustainable future.
So healthy soil helps us fight climate change. But is there anything else it can do?
You bet. Healthy soil is also more resilient to the impacts of climate change. For example, soil with good structure and high organic matter content, it's better able to absorb and retain water, which is crucial in the face of more frequent and intense droughts.
It's like having a built-in buffer against extreme weather.
Exactly. Healthy soil can help us adapt to the changing climate.
So what can we do to harness the power of soil in the face of climate change? What actions can we take?
It all comes back to those sustainable practices we've been talking about, protecting those forests, planting those trees, and adopting regenerative agriculture techniques.
Right.
But it also involves supporting policies that promote soil health, investing in research and innovation, and raising awareness about the crucial role soil plays in our lives and the health of our planet. It's a collective effort. It requires action at all levels, from individuals to governments to businesses.
It sounds like we all have a part to play in protecting soil.
We absolutely do. And the good news is there's a growing movement of people who are passionate about soil and committed to protecting this vital resource. From farmers to scientists to everyday citizens, people are recognizing that soil is not just dirt, it's the foundation of life. And it deserves our attention and care.
That's really encouraging to hear. It sounds like there's a lot we can do to make a difference for soil, even small actions.
There are, and we'll talk about some of those in our next segment. Stay tuned.